The Last Candle Flickers. Part 1. The house had no name, only a reputation. Locals in the valley called it the Wickering, a word that tasted like ash when spoken aloud. It stood 3 miles beyond the last street lamp, where the road surrendered to gravel and the night pressed against windshields like black water. Every child within 50 miles knew the rules. If you see the candle burning in the top left window, do not stop. Do not slow down. Most important, do not let the flame go out while you're watching. On the 23rd of October, 1997, Jonah Hale broke all 3 rules. He was 27, a doctoral candidate in comparative folklore, and despite the warnings, he did not believe in ghosts. His dissertation was a study of regional extinction myths. Stories communities tell when something vanishes but refuses to stay gone. The Wickering had all the hallmarks. Cattle found flayed in perfect spirals, a family that disappeared in 1894, a single candle said to relight itself whenever the house sends fresh eyes. Jonah wanted primary sources. He wanted to spend one night inside and record everything. He parked his rust-brown Corolla where the asphalt ended, slung a canvas satchel over his shoulder, and walked the rest of the way beneath a moon so thin it looked snapped in half. The satchel contained a microcassette recorder, 3 spare tapes, 2 flashlights, a thermos of black coffee, and a box of wooden matches. Because folklore also said electricity never worked inside the Wickering once the sun went down. The iron gate was already open, sagging on hinges that had rusted into frozen screams. Jonah stepped through. The gravel path crunched like bones. Ahead, the house loomed. 2 stories of dark clapper and shattered windows, its peaked roof clawing at the sky. Yet in the top left window, what might once have been a child's bedroom, a single candle burned. The flame was small but unnaturally steady, as though the night had been stitched around it. Jonah felt his first lurch of unease. The candle should not have been lit. He'd watched the house on the ridge for an hour at dusk and seen nothing. But scholarship demanded rigor. He pressed record on the microcassette, narrated the time, 8:47 p.m., the temperature, 39 degrees, and the fact that the flame's reflection did not appear in the cracked pane beneath it. Then he climbed the porch steps. The front door stood ajar. Jonah nudged it with his boot. It swung inward without a sound, exhaling air that smelled of wet stone and something sweeter, like lilacs left too long in a graveyard vase. The foyer was a rectangle of peeling wallpaper. Moonlight dripped through holes in the ceiling and pooled like spilled milk. He aimed his flashlight at the staircase. The candle, he knew, was directly above the landing. He climbed, each step testing his weight. The wood groaned but held. On the second floor, a corridor stretched left and right. Wallpaper bubbled where rainwater had gotten behind it. Portraits still hung on the walls. Faces blistered away so only the oval outlines of heads remained. At the far left, the door to the candle room stood half open, a blade of orange light cutting across the floorboards. Jonah's pulse hammered his ears. He narrated again. I am approaching the source of the flame. Temperature has dropped at least 5 degrees since the foyer. No discernible draft. He pushed the door. The bedroom was smaller than he expected, maybe 10 by 12. The candle sat on the sill of the shattered window, rooted in a brass holder blackened by centuries of heat. The flame cast long quivering shadows across walls papered with faded circus animals, elephants in tutus, lions missing their faces. Beneath the window sat a child's rocking chair, painted white, now the color of old teeth. The chair rocked, very slightly, though no wind stirred. Jonah stepped inside. The door shut behind him. He did not touch it. He set the satchel on the floor and withdrew the microcassette recorder. Subject appears to be an ordinary tallow candle, 7 inches conical, no manufacturer's mark. Wick is white, trimmed. Flame height, 1.7 centimeters. He crouched, studying the brass holder. A pattern of tiny notches ringed its base, hundreds of them, like prison days scratched into stone. He touched one. The candle guttered, shrinking to a blue needle. Jonah froze. Folklore whispered in his head. Do not let the flame go out while you're watching. He lifted his hand. The flame recovered, growing tall again. He exhaled. A sound rose behind him, soft, deliberate footsteps in the corridor. He spun. Nothing. The hallway yawned empty. He returned to the candle, but the rocking chair had ceased its motion. He had not heard it stop. He pressed on, now attempting to measure ambient temperature directly beside the flame. He produced a mercury thermometer from his pocket. As he leaned in, the candle's glow seemed to thicken, becoming almost liquid. The flame elongated, stretching upward like a waking finger. For one impossible heartbeat, Jonah saw another shape inside it. A tiny human silhouette, arms spread as if crucified. He jerked back. The thermometer slipped from his fingers and shattered against the sill. Beads of mercury rolled like silver maggots into cracks in the wood. The flame snapped back to its original size, innocent. Jonah's mouth was dry. He knelt to collect the broken glass, but the mercury had vanished. He could not even see its reflection in the wood grain. From somewhere below came the sound of breaking porcelain, sharp, resonant. Jonah straightened. He narrated, though his voice shook, possible structural instability, investigating ground floor. He left the candle burning and stepped into the corridor. The temperature plummeted as he descended, his breath plumed white. At the foot of the stairs, the foyer had changed. The front door was now closed and barred with an iron rod that had not been there before. Jonah pulled. The rod did not budge. He swept his flashlight across the foyer. A trail of wet footprints, small, bare, child-sized, led from the staircase to a doorway beneath the stairs. The prints glistened darkly, as though the feet had walked through blood. Jonah followed. The doorway opened onto a narrow kitchen. A single wooden table stood in the center, scarred by knife marks. On it sat a cracked porcelain plate. The plate had been broken and reassembled with gold lacquer. Kintsugi. The Japanese are precious scars, except the golden veins spelled words. I see you listening. Jonah's recorder clicked. End of tape. He ejected it, fumbling a fresh cassette from his pocket. His fingers were numb. He slid the new tape in and pressed record. Kitchen, access beneath staircase. No external exit. Plate inscription suggests intelligence. He aimed the flashlight around. The footprints ended at the table, but he saw no child. A cast iron stove squatted in the corner, cold. Above it hung a row of meat hooks, empty, a metallic scrape behind him. Jonah turned. One hook was no longer empty. A candle, identical to the one upstairs, now dangled from the hook by its brass holder. Its flame pointed downward, burning toward the floor. Wax dripped in slow red tears.